Welcome back, everybody, to GSA Legends, day number 2. We are currently getting set up with Spongebob Squarepants, Battle for Bikini Bottom, ran by SHiFT, and I'm here with Nez
Right here.
and Null. How are you guys doing today?
Doing amazing, bro. I'm ready for a nice run of Shifticles. Doing Battle for Bikini Bottom. Super excited. I have been following this guy for quite a bit, and I, become a little bit more familiar with the game since I've got to know SHiFT. I'm actually rooming with him for this event as well, so he's a super cool guy, and I'm ready for this second day to see him, show some stuff with this game.
All right. Sounds good.
Yeah.
How are you feeling, Null?
Well, I'm waiting for this. I'm watching for like 3 years now. I used to run the game, probably about a year back. I was never good, but I ran the game, and so I've been watching the stream every day for years, and Nez is the only one here that's not he's not too knowledgeable on the game, so he's gonna be kind of the one that's, from the viewer's perspective, asking us what we're doing, but
right.
We kind of know what's going on here.
Yeah, I've also been watching SHiFT for 3 years. Honestly, there's not many people I've found that have been following him for longer. I've just found him on Speedrun.com just so long ago, and he's just been grinding the game ever since. Almost every day, 10 hours a day.
It's insane.
And, he's the world record holder for literally everything that the game has. And, we were talking about this earlier, that the gaps for first place, second place, and third place are very marginal. The person who has second place is a long shot from first place, and the person who has third place is a long shot from second place. So there's definitely gaps there, but SHiFT has time and time again proven that he's the premier Battle for Bikini Bottom speedrunner.
Yeah.
So,
and it's not to discredit anybody underneath him
absolutely
at all,
not.
because it is a highly technical game.
No, it really is.
He has really put in the time to really master his craft, and really just there's so many just different frame perfect tricks. I mean, not maybe so much in the 100% category. I'm not sure if we're going to see as many of those kind of tricks, but we're going to be seeing a lot of like lag clips, a lot of a really cool trick called DCP, which we'll be explaining later. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to it.
I think in general, 100 has probably flashier movement, less so like technical like one frame tricks or whatever.
Because you're exploring more of the game.
Yeah. But you're 100% right now, I think, is the best category the game's ever had. It's at a great position right now.
Well, a big reason for that is because of SBA. Basically, this is a glitch that allows us to farm shiny objects in the game at a very rapid rate. What is it? Every like 1 or 2 frames, 30 shiny objects.
Yeah, every other frame 30 is the best you can get.
So, and you're just getting 30. I mean, how much is that per? What, that's like 900 per second or something like that?
Yeah, I don't know the math. That's a lot.
I just did it in my head, but it's a lot. And even while the game is tracking it all down, while it's all adding up, he's still able to move around and complete objectives in the game. But before that, what he would have to do for shiny object farming is he would have to like destroy a bunch of tikis and just die for I kid you not, like 15 minutes or something like that. Like definitely over 10 minutes.
How recently was this discovered?
This is about a year ago.
About a year ago?
I think it was October last year, actually.
Yeah, it was discovered a year ago, but people really didn't like the glitch when they first found it because it made any percent kind of a lame category. So any percent no SBA, like they just decided right away we're not going to run it.
Separated it.
Yeah, it's separated right away. But now any percent is the main category, and they like
100 is.
Or 100 is main category. I just forgot they did that very recently.
Just
100 is now the main category, but any percent is more commonly ran probably with SBA. Maybe it's debatable.
When SBA was first found, they pretty much everyone hated it. It was really slow. It was kind of inconsistent. No one really knew how to do it well, and so that's when they separated any percent and no SBA. And no SBA was like the main category for a while, and everyone just kind of ignored it. But SBA slowly got more and more consistent, and now that it's pretty doable, and it's actually everyone kind of likes to do it. That's how 100% became the main category, because before that, grinding took so long in 100%. It got rid of so many slow parts where you had to grind for shiny objects. It kind of saved 100% actually.
So what is the world record currently for any percent and 100%?
I didn't bring my notes.
The world record for 100 is 119.
119, okay.
40 something.
40 something. Okay, so it's around the 120 mark. Okay, and then any percent is usually like down. It's a little couple minutes before the hour mark, right?
No, any percent I think is a 49.
Yeah, he's really brought like SBA really revolutionized.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like I mean, I remember when this game was just sub 1 hour, like in 11 additional minutes.
Yeah.
have been that's unbelievable. But hey, guys, it looks like we are all set up. We are all ready to go. SHiFT. Yeah, SHiFT. How you feeling, bud?
I'm feeling pretty prepared for the most part. A little bit of different delay on the TV. The Xbox, not my usual, so it does have some slow loads, but should be able to do the tricks just fine, show off what the run's all about, you know? It's all about demonstrating how it goes.
Yeah, I really hope you've played this game enough to be able to...
Yeah, I've been slacking a little bit.
So the reason he mentions that the Xbox is different, there's a couple tricks called lag clips, which are hardware dependent, really. And so the different Xbox might affect them a little bit, but we'll explain them when we get there.
Yeah, different console affects those tricks.
It's based on how much the console lags. So
this one's slower, so it's actually going to be a little bit beneficial for him, and we're not really worried about the time. So it's gonna be nice for consistency.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I've had this Xbox for a couple of years, 3 years. It's always been my travel Xbox. It's been in California twice now, actually. But
cool.
Second time here. All right, whenever you guys are ready.
Are we ready on countdown?
Can I actually get the game volume up a little bit?
Hold on.
That's probably okay. Yeah. Oh, that's gonna be. This is fine where it is right now.
Okay, and then are we all ready for countdown?
Yeah.
Already.
All right. 3, 2, 1, go.
Let's do it.
Good luck, bud.
All right. So honestly, the guys in the couch gave you guys a very good explanation for this category and how this game works. So honestly, not much to say really. Hopefully, a lot of you guys are excited for the remake coming soon. If you guys saw anything about that,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I am gonna grind that, but not as much as you will.
Honestly, I'm gonna try to have fun with it, but this is always gonna be my baby. You know, I'm always gonna have this one. Yeah.
100%.
And then what you guys are seeing on screen right here, he has to do this this probably is his favorite part of the game.
Oh, I've seen this thousands of times.
But then right after it, that's the only part of the game that's always the same every single time. And after that, depending on the category, what you're doing, things might change.
So that right there. What was that?
So I don't know if SHiFT wants to explain the hand.
Well, did you guys want to explain? Because the beginning of this run, I really got to focus on getting. Bikini Bottom is absolute hell in the beginning of this run.
Yeah,
so
basically,
really focus on it.
What he's doing here is he's disabling Hans that's coming across and grabbing Spongebob. Basically, while he was pulling him across the taxi pad, he pressed A to take the taxi, which then Hans was taking him off screen. Same time he's taking the taxi, and then he goes over and does it again, and that just completely disables Hans.
Yeah, so essentially, Hans is the way that the game keeps you from going out of bounds. So when you go out normally, like right here.
Yeah, right here's a perfect example.
Yeah, in a normal run, if he were to jump down to the spatula, Hans would come and pick him up. But since Hans was still out and he took him into the loading zone to bring him to Jellyfish Fields, Hans is completely disabled. And in this category, he does turn Hans back on at some point. He goes on and off a couple times in 100%. But when they need him, you can turn him back on by staying out of bounds for 5 seconds, I think.
Mm-hmm. And he basically grabbed that spatula there and Jellyfish Fields so that he can basically warp back to it. You're supposed to do a bungee to get there, but he just went down and grabbed it.
Yeah.
And since you normally have to get through a bit of the level to get to that bungee, you can just warp right back to it. And there's that is a very difficult trick to grab. He's looking for a ledge grab, I believe, right there, right?
Yeah. So the only way to get through past the you're supposed to fight a boss to get to the area where he's trying to go, but it's a really tight. Yeah.
Yeah, it's nice.
So there's an invisible wall, and he has to get under it by jumping under the level and then double jumping and grabbing the ledge behind the wall. It's really tough. It's almost always a reset in the first 2 minutes.
It's really nice that it's right here. It's really nice that it's right here at the start. But he's playing on a slightly different monitor, and just the slightest.
Oh my God, that trick is
frame.
Yeah. Second try in a marathon is perfect.
Honestly, I don't know why we didn't just reset.
Now, one of the undermined sections of these games, these categories, except for 100% of the combat. I really like this category a lot because it does have a lot of the fighting segments like this one, and they are made a little bit more difficult because you don't have your bubble power-ups at this point to attack the robots, so it's more strategic. It is a little bit of RNG. You can lose up to like maybe 5 seconds, in very extreme cases, maybe 10 seconds, but this is also like 3 minutes into the run, so it's not a big deal when you're attempting a time. You have sections like Krabs' Dream, the Alamo fight, and Sandy's Dream. It's just a lot of like it's nice to show off more parts of the game, more diverse sections. As Noah was saying earlier, it's not all about just constantly nailing one-frame jumps, you know?
Yeah. And when he's doing that, he's like really just trying to hit the robots right into each other. It's really cool to see SHiFT's accuracy when it comes to that kind of stuff.
So right now, for him to get up here, when SpongeBob lands from a double jump, he goes into a little bit of jump squat at the end.
That is wild.
And
Yes.
if you
What?
So if you double jump on top of the sponge ball, and you never land without ending your jump squat, so if you double jump again while you're still in jump squat, he won't turn into a ball. And so you can essentially store the sponge ball and land wherever you want with it. So he brought it up to that, I guess that cliff or whatever that was.
Yep, and then he did some really precise movement there to bounce around the geometry. And then while he's flying in the air, he takes himself out of the ball form, still has his jumps, gets over there, and grabs a spatula.
That is
Easy.
ridiculously technical. Wow.
Yeah.
You guys will see, I can maybe even do some glitch showcases maybe later if we have time during the marathon, but a lot of the glitches and problems that this game has mostly due to animation overlaps. And as Noah was explaining earlier, the jump squat is the reason why we can store the sponge ball, but you can also store other stuff for the sponge ball too. You can actually store death, you can store
Love
trampoline
starting
bounces.
some good old death.
Yeah, you can store anything really. It's really cool.
All right, so he's going to be doing a leap of faith over here. And yeah, you can just jump on that. It doesn't matter that it's, completely vertical.
Yeah, in this game, if it looks like you can land on it, you can. And if it looks like you can grab the ledge, you can. So this is like, I really love this engine because of the way it's made. And it's very free form.
Yeah, free form.
It's very nice for like especially like potentially ISO hacks in the future, kind of like people do with like the ROM hacks from Mario 64. It's a really nice engine and it works really well with whatever you throw at it. So super stable too. It almost never crashes unless you really force it to.
It's just such a true 3D platformer. It's like you see it, you can probably go to it. You could probably in whatever way you want to, like this. Just the.
So he had to get hit by that in order to get the initial boost
Yeah,
to get there.
that's a damage boost.
Damage boost?
You kind of store the momentum of getting hit and shoot up, and it can get you across gaps. That's one of the movement in this game is very like. You press a button, the next frame that move comes out, and that's just how it is.
All of it's very precise. He's standing in very specific spots. Every single time.
Yeah, there's some damage boosts like that one where you have up to I think that one is around 15 frames. I know that the one in Sand Mountain are around 15 as well, which is around the same timing. So it's like somewhere around like the 15 frame mark.
Yeah, some of them are easier.
If you set it up the right way, yeah. But there are some that you can set up to have 15 times number of frames as opposed to just one frame, which in any percent no SBA, as Easy was explaining earlier, that category, especially for this trick, there's a variation of this trick that uses a one frame button press to get across because typically the rule of thumb is if you slide off a ledge, you get 14 extra frames, and if you don't slide off a ledge, if you're in midair, you only have one frame to hit it. But this is a big change compared to in the past when we used to do the infamous fast nut trick where you would use a one-frame slide bash to get over here. You guys will see slide bashing later, but they won't be one frames because we have DCB speed active to boost them more. We don't need to get a one frame to get on top of the objects we need to later. But in the past, you guys may remember, fast nut was a trick where we used to boost off the slide to get straight to the acorn. But now because we have this early game option called Sandy Nut for short, is where you get the checkpoint under the nut and die, so you respawn on top of the nut instead of having to boost across.
Okay.
How does he say it with a straight face? God damn.
I know.
I've just given the explanation so many times.
Yeah.
But yeah, what he did, the variation they did with Sandy is basically he just bashed his head up right up against the nut and then triggered the checkpoint and then just died, on the manure pile and then respawned right there next to the spatula.
This is actually a good lesson in a question that some people might have is like, if fast nut is faster than this one, why aren't we using that? And the reason is because you need to have a trick called cruise boosting active to do it, which you can only unlock through beating both of two of the first main boss fights before Robo SpongeBob, Patrick and Sandy. So you get the Bubble Bowl for defeating Robo Sandy, which you can go into at 15 spatula mark, and you get the Cruise Bubble for defeating Robo Patrick, which you get for the 40 spatula mark. And when you have both, if you use those two things on the same frame to cancel the animation, you can get boosted speed onto your base de facto speed. So that's the reason why we need to have that to do fast nut, because we need that extra boost to get over the slide. So in this case, we need to get 15 of the fastest spatulas as possible to get into the Poseidon to get the bubble ball. So we're in this phase of the game where we don't have these power-ups, and we have to get that spatula early. So since it's already done, we can't do it later. You'll see that in a lot of categories in this game. There are several categories in the main leaderboard, and they all have like very different variations of tricks, very different routing orders, just because of the way the game's power-up system works. And also, as EasyScape was mentioning earlier, the hand being disabled. This is a section here where this is a 1 second time save where I go out of bounds, and I go around this cutscene trigger right over here. It saves 1 second, but if I stay on the dunes for too long, for 2 seconds actually, I get grabbed by the hand. Now, that would in fact re-enable the hand because I stood on the dunes for more than 2 seconds. Then the hand would be back and active, and I wouldn't be able to go out of bounds again. So you'll see later we can use that to abuse cutscenes and skip them early. But for now, we're going to keep the hand disabled.
All right, so he's trying to do a 1-frame jump here during, I guess, the hip stun.
Yeah.
You just have 1 frame to get an extra jump, and that'll allow him to get the Sokka there early.
There
And
it
now
is.
he's doing a
This is
sponge
descending.
glide.
This is descending. Okay.
Oh, okay.
I gotta, yeah.
How do you explain this?
That's what I was gonna say.
How do you
I know,
because the developers don't even know. They don't even understand how this works.
We have some ideas, but even Hazel, who is the mastermind behind the tasks, and she's found plenty of things in this game. She can't even fully explain it that well either. And
So it just works.
everyone just kind of accepted it.
Yeah.
Yeah. We don't.
my
we don't talk
idea
about
is
why.
that I think that landing and descending are separate actions. So this is just all theory. That
They really can't find it out?
No, it just.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I spoke to the lead programmer who did the movement in this game. He said that he has no idea why it happens. It's just spooky.
Huh.
But my idea is that landing and falling are 2 separate things. So if you stop falling and you don't land, you just float. So like landing would be like the animation that you get, because everything in the game is animation based, right? So
Yep.
if you still have the bubble slam out and you stop falling, then you haven't landed, but you still have the falling animation. So you just kind of keep floating.
Also, cutscene skip happening right here. Just gonna die while he activates that. That's actually a pretty long cutscene. So
Yeah,
it's
it's
nice that you
super
can
long.
Skip
Yeah.
it.
One of my favorite things about this category's routing is a year ago when SBA was found, and in November I was like, well, I can't ignore this for any longer. We got to do 100% with SBA. This category has 15 spatulas and 0 socks even at Poseidon, so you have the exact right number of collectibles to get into the first boss fight. And then the second boss fight has 40 spatulas and 1 sock, which you can't trade anyway because you leave the Krusty Krab and walk straight to Industrial Park. So it just works out perfectly, so you know exactly what you're missing in 100% run. And once you get to the end, you just kind of fill in the rest of the blanks and get what you're missing.
Yeah. So for those that don't know, 10 socks is you trade 10 socks to Patrick and you get a spatula.
See, I knew I was forgetting something, and I'm glad you mentioned that.
yeah.
so
Yeah.
What's he gonna do with those socks?
So he ends up with 14 spatulas and 10 socks when he leaves and goes to Patrick, and then gets the 15th spatula right there, and then goes straight to Poseidon.
Super Ultra Mega Monster combo. Wow, nice job, SHiFT.
Yeah, that set of tikis is actually one of the ways that people used to grind before SBA for shiny
Yep.
objects was destroying that set of tikis and then jumping into the goo and dying.
Yeah, up until SBA was found, that was the largest active time save I personally found. It saved like over 5 minutes. But then
Jeez.
SBA got found, and I'm like, well, there goes my accomplishment. So.
Yeah, so see, he trades 10 socks to Patrick and then walks straight to Poseidon.
So
Yep.
now he has the 15 spatulas. Now we're going to go into the first boss fight, correct?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Very
Okay.
conveniently right there.
So that's a cool thing about 100 is that within 5 minutes he had already skipped both these boss fights, and he was in like the entirety of Dream is all an area that you're not supposed to be in until you've beaten the second boss. And within 5 minutes we had already gone there and gotten spatulas from all the areas of the game.
But if you notice, Dream is an exception because it doesn't have a spatula requirement to get
Yeah,
into it.
exactly.
You can just roll on
Exactly.
over to it.
You can't get into the area where Dream is, but there's no requirement to get in there once
Yep.
you're in that area.
And the funny thing is that there might be an alternate universe when we maybe even did Murmelair early, but the thing is, even though there's no spatula requirement for Murmelair, there's a big gap in the Murmelair main chamber where you can't get across unless you have the bubble ball. So Dream is really, it's a miracle that you can actually damage boost across those places and skip
Yeah.
Pain in the Clams. There's a lot of stuff in this game that, like, if a few things didn't exist, the whole route would be entirely different. I mean, we saw how SBA entirely changed the game. That's what I say when people say, like, you know, hey, SHiFT, why do you want cruise boosting in the new game? Wouldn't that just make it the same speedrun? Like, absolutely not. I mean, cruise boosting is the spine of this game, and all of the ligaments and crazy things that branch off of it are just a result of, like, you know, that being part of how it affects the routing and stuff. But, you know, if you change even one trick in this game, the entire game changes.
Yeah.
Here's a good example of that. So basically, say he had cruise boosting, like right now, he could skip this entire boss fight. Because he can actually use cruise boosting and the effects of it to lag clip underneath this little platform here, underneath the boxing ring. And this spatula for this boss fight is underneath it. It is literally right there.
It's a very good point.
And you can just, once you grab it, done. Just completely done.
But it only bemes available in the first quarter of the run.
The reason, it's a paradox because you can't use the cruise bubble and bubble ball if you haven't unlocked them yet. So you can only do that in, like, there are like miscellaneous extension boards, or there are categories like cheat 100%, where you use cheats and then you get 100%. So what that allows you to do is cruise boost early, so you can use these boss fight skips where, like, you can just get the spatula under the stage early and just quit. The thing is, though, the spatulas do not give you power-ups, though, so even if there were a way to clip under without cruise boosting, you still wouldn't be able to skip out on getting the power-ups because, you know, like I said, the spatula triggers just the spatula itself, and the cutscene at the end of the boss fight is what triggers the power-ups. So you have to physically beat the boss fight to get in a non-cheat category, unless you find some kind of debug menu where you can just, you know, use debug to unlock the powers early. It could be possible considering there are developer cheat codes that exist for it. I think that in the past, sometimes games use developer cheat codes as actual, like, testing, like ways to test the game on a console. So there is a possibility that maybe if someone finds like a debug mode in this game, it could work. There are some theories about, like, beta menus and stuff where you can access, like, the old school, like, alpha or beta menus in the title screen. So there are some, like, weird theories going around, especially this one specific theory about skipping boss fights where the second phase of Robo-Patrick, the end of that phase is not triggered by it having 3 fewer bars of health. It's actually triggered by the goo rising up. So the idea is that if you can somehow trick the game into, I hate saying trick the game because it's, like, so cliche, and a lot of marathoners use the trick the game trope, but yeah. Pretty much the idea is, like, if you can somehow force the game to make the goo rise, you can skip that whole segment. But obviously it's just an idea, not even really a theory because it's so, you know, there's not much to back it up yet.
Okay, so that boss fight right there did seem to take a little bit. Would you say that that's one of the longer boss fights in the game?
Yeah, so Robo-Sandy and Robo-Patrick are the 2 longest boss fights for sure.
Okay.
They're honestly, a big reason why we switched to 100% is because it's a lower percentage of the game that you're doing those boss fights, and it's a larger percentage that you're doing the fast and crazy movement that comes later in the run. Any percent and 100% have relatively the same early and mid games. There are some differences, like any percent has more damage boosts, and this game kind of cuts right to the point, and you just collect more socks instead. But 100% has like 45 straight minutes of cruise boosting at the end, and also the boss fights are a lower percentage. Yeah. I think that every speed game has its heel. No game is perfect, and I'd say that the boss fights in this game are for sure the heel of this game.
For sure.
It was funny because I went to the developer studio that's working on the remake, and I did say to them, like, you guys should try to speed up the boss fights a little bit to make them a little bit less monotonous. I recommended, like, after each hit, the robot gets a little bit faster each time to potentially cut the amount of time that it would take to... That is not good.
You got yeeted.
That is probably the worst thing that could have just happened. So now I got to bring both Tikis back over.
No, I mean, dodging all those guys, I mean, there's...
Honestly...
It's so annoying.
Here comes another cliche. I've never seen that happen before. So, and I play this game quite a bit. To be fair, it is my fault, though, because I wasn't paying attention to him lurking behind me.
That's
and they are pretty silent, yeah.
But basically what he's doing over here is he's moving these tikis, whatever the rock tikis are, he's moving them over to do that glitch that we were talking about in the intro, which is going to allow him to farm shiny objects at an insane rate. Yeah, you might want to turn down your volume for it.
You might want to turn it up.
You might want to turn it up. Truly a banger.
Yeah, so SBA, ski wall abuse is what it stands for. And you can see here that, so what he's going to do is he's going to put the 2 tikis, try to land them right in the center hole. He's going to
Heavy Iron just wanted to make a fun little side mini game for us, and look what you guys did.
It's so funny that Kotaku wrote an article about this potentially killing the game, or that it tore the community in half or whatever. They were talking about like it's like Sword and Shield or something, but it's actually like
oh no.
Oh no.
it's actually become very accepted, as you guys had mentioned earlier.
That is so glitched.
Get them shift 30s in the chat, boys.
Yeah, so essentially what it does is it gets the ball stuck right in the trigger where you get 30 shiny objects for landing.
Whoa.
Sometimes that works. Wow, this is a really weird day for SBA, isn't it? Yeah, I don't know why that didn't work, but
It's the travel Xbox. It's haunting you.
something's whack.
So
if you just go back over there and throw another ball in, do you think you might be okay?
he'll probably walk it back
Tiki
in.
might be in the wrong spot, but I can give it a try a little bit more to the left. Yeah, it literally just popped out. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, this is
There we
it is.
go.
Okay.
It could pop out again because it popped out that
Yeah.
one time. I
So
think that's a very rare case though. It might not. It's probably not gonna.
The
pop
reason
out.
that it pops up or pops out is just because it's in the wrong place.
That doesn't,
Yeah,
that one
most
doesn't look to be
99% of the time, if it pops out, it's in the wrong place. But honestly, that looked like it was right.
Yeah.
It's an inconsistent trick at nature, so it's like that 1% of the time it might not be your fault, but it's hard to tell honestly sometimes.
Some rock and ball torture.
I love that. Yeah, this is the stretcher I'm on right now. Yeah, so I think this might actually.
Stacking up. Come on, keep going. How much do we need? How much do we need?
We need 48K.
48K.
I'm just gonna check. Yeah.
Okay,
Oh,
so
yeah.
it's going fine. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's hard to tell when like weird stuff happens. Because usually what I do is like I don't expect it to fall out like that, and I just keep the pace in my head, like based on like how fast the 30s are blinking, what mistakes I make. Like I can usually tell like just by watching what it is. But when you got to walk all the way back to the skee ball machine and come back, it's just hard to tell sometimes like what pacing you're at, and especially in a marathon, like you don't want to end up in a situation where you have to redo the whole thing. It's
Right.
yeah, it's not good. But all right, that was rough, but we made it past.
Woo!
Two very strange, abnormal things happened, but we made it. All right, so we're going back to Dream now. And you'll see that Dream actually has 3 segments in this run. And the reason why we do this part now is because we have shiny objects to pay this clam coming up. Now, EasyScape actually made a video on the old strat that we used to do here. Or we never actually ended up doing yeah, we never ended up doing it, but it was on the table and potentially, you know, it was going to be added to achieve, what was it, like a 136 back in the day when that was impressive.
Yeah.
But now it's like the world record is going down to a 118 soon. So as you can see, the game's changed a lot. And there's a tech called LCBs, Ledge Cruise Boost, that you see later, that we're trying to investigate the potential of using that in this level now.
Wait,
instead of
are you
in it.
doing that in the, like a different variation of that glitch in this?
No.
Okay.
We're trying to find a way to do it here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we currently only do that in Sand Mountain.
Also, I don't know if I've ever really noticed it. Did you damage boost?
Yeah,
And
that's
yeah,
a turret
yeah.
damage boost. Yeah.
That's really cool. That's really cool.
It looks
Yep.
terrifying every time.
All right.
I just gotta get this last guy here.
That's
Yoink!
called lasso storage, but I didn't get the right hit. I was trying to do some lasso storage there to give myself a little bit of a push on the oil, so that maybe the tartar sauce guy would hit me into the spatula. Sometimes that happens, but this fight is super inconsistent. It's really fun though because
It's a cool swag
you kind of get like a very different thing every time. All right, this next thing coming up is a 1-frame jump, so
Easy.
not really used to the timing on this monitor, but we'll see how it goes.
At least you can just
All right, we
keep
got it.
retrying
Yeah,
it, even if you messed up.
That's significantly harder than it looks.
Very
Yeah.
much so.
You have 5 different animations that cycle through in order for SpongeBob's hurt, and you have to be able to know which one you're getting and how to react to it because there is a different. The frame timing is the same for 4 of them. One of them has 2 extra frames you have to wait, but the reaction, like saying, like, okay, I got this animation at this point. By the way, I just lost 6 seconds with double jumping. By the way, there's a cycle after me.
You're
Yeah.
supposed to just jump once. Isn't that what you're trying to do, or not? at
No,
all?
this year I'm not trying to jump
Oh,
at all.
that's right,
I
that's
missed.
right.
Yeah, I missed the R trigger. I jumped. I was trying to confirm the text box, but I jumped early. Yeah, so you have 5 different animations. They all have to be reacted to differently, and you have to be able to jump on the first frame that you possibly can, knowing which animation you're going to get. So a lot of, like, in any percent especially, any percent no SBA and, like, old school any percent, we had to kind of, like, keep track mentally which one was coming next to make it more consistent and prepare for the next one. 100%, not as many of those jumps because it's more balanced. Those jumps still exist in this game, in this category. Like you saw the tower jump in Goo Lagoon and the block jump here. They still exist, but it's a lot more balanced with more types of tricks than just like the same one frame, one frame, one frame, one frame. There's still a lot of frame perfect tricks in this run, but that specific one frame triple jump is not seen as many times as it was in the past.
So you're leaving it on 29 because that one will make it 30?
Oh,
Why is he
I
on 29
almost
right
made
now?
that.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
oh no, because there's only a certain amount you can get.
Yeah, you can only get.
Okay,
yeah,
okay,
so
for
that's
sure. Yeah,
that's the reason that we do SBA.
Right,
Is
right.
because you
So
need
you can get all those
you
coins.
get a certain
Yeah.
amount of spatulas from Mr. Krabs by trading him shiny objects, and you have to get those for 100% obviously, and SBA makes that so much faster.
Yeah, they're not.
Yeah.
They're not like There are 8 crab spatulas, and they're not like extra. It's not like in Odyssey you can just buy random moons that don't contribute to the actual like completion, right?
Yeah,
In this game, like the 8 are actually required, which kind of sucked for a while, but now like it's fine because we have a skip for it. So it actually does contribute to 8% of the entire game. But I do think that SBA is like one of the coolest tricks in the run, though. It's
Oh, definitely, yeah.
not a lot of games have something like that to make 100%, viable in a collectathon type run. Like 120 star, you have like it's like 120 stars. It's not like most games where you gotta like buy a lot of crap.
Yeah.
We're just very, very lucky.
It's just doing
that-
that.
Yeah.
Unless you want to count 100 coins, it's not the same thing.
Yeah.
Gonna be doing a couple skips. Yeah, you wouldn't think you could just
through
jump
those
on
walls.
through there.
Yeah,
but
see, that's another example. Of you don't really notice it during the run, but Hans would completely take you away if you
Yep.
did that without disabling the hand.
That really helps. That's such a crucial trick,
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
it's literally helping every bit of the game right now.
And that's the
yeah.
thing, is like
Yeah.
even in the beginning, like you'd have to like, well, okay, and this you can actually jump across the bridge because there is like a skip for that's never been used in runs, but because it's always been slow. But if you weren't able to jump into Cal Bungee right in the beginning of the game, like literally a minute in, that would still have like a huge impact on the rest of the run. That's why we rehydrated. Like if there's no way to jump across the bridge, you're gonna see a very big change.
yeah,
in how the
because
run
you got to
plays.
get some shiny objects to pay for that bridge, then, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, just
So we're
and
gonna have to find some new tech.
just bashing some tikis. I mean, there are some tikis that are like down to the right, right at the start of Jellyfish Field. So I guess you would just maybe
Yeah.
go get those. I don't know.
It really like truly is like to drive the point home. It is a miracle that this game that is very
Yeah.
collectathon-y as a casual game ended up being like this tight of a speed run. It's kind of whack, honestly. Like a lot of people's first impressions when they see it is like, all right, so how many shiny objects are we gonna grind for? Is it gonna be like super collecty, Because that's what you're
Yeah.
used to doing in the original is you pay clams all the time. I brought this up with the developers when I visited their studio for the remake, and they agreed like potentially rework the shiny object economy, hide more like big shinies around to collect, make the clams less expensive. Because there's a clam in Rock Bottom that costs like 2,400 shiny objects and you get 1 sock from it. Like it's disproportionate.
Yeah, because the
Very
thing is,
strange.
there's no SBA is not going to be in the remake. The odds of that are
Oh, let's.
there's almost no chance of it. So in the remake, you're going to have to go back to grinding shiny objects. So
Yeah,
goal
I
would
think
be to
that,
make it
I
easier.
think the remake is probably, it's safe to say that any percent is going to be the most popular category, unless like, there's like some kind of a mode where you start with the powers and cruise boosting happens to be in the game. That's just all speculation. But I think that people will end up running like the all-level spatula variation where you collect all the spatulas except for the socks and those that are bought from crabs. We had that as a miscellaneous category in this game. But in the remake, like, because SBA is not going to be a thing and there probably won't be a way to glitch the shiny object counter for a long time, I could see that being like the alternate category for 100% if people want to complete the rest of the game. But there are a lot of skips in this game people take for granted, even the one I just did.
Yeah, I was about to bring
Yeah.
that one up. It's one of the top 10 skips in speedrunning. It's called Jump to the Ledge, and you just skip like that entire section.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, so Murmulair is it's actually gonna be the last area in the game where we have no cruise boosting, and then after this, we've been talking about cruise boosting for half an hour now, but we'll finally get to actually
You'll be
see
seeing
it.
plenty of that. Yeah,
That's really where the game starts to heat up.
yeah. The first like 45% of the game is pretty much just like trick-based stuff and setting up the rest of the game for the cruise boosting section, so you can backtrack and get everything, just quickly. And then you have the boss fight, and then you have the rest 55% of the game around that much time where you just collect everything that you haven't gotten already, and you also just enter all the levels you haven't touched yet.
So many of these tricks actually play out later in the run too, which is really cool. Like SBA, the Hans, and everything like that. They have such
Yeah,
a
they changed the
big,
whole game.
big rule.
Yeah.
If one of them didn't exist,
Yeah, then
it's
Exactly.
none of this would really be
Yeah,
possible.
go back and watch a run of this game when it was
No.
like in the 130s or so.
That is
No.
insane, man.
Hundo.
Yeah, that's the thing that makes a game like this where every level is continuous with each other. Like one trick actually affects every place you go to.
That's the reason why we don't have like individual spatula runs for this game. We have individual worlds, but like if we did like rolling ballroom spatula, like there are different categories. Like that segment starts at the gate. The segment can start at the warp on some categories. Like it's like, what does it really mean? It only means something in context to the rest of the category that's around it.
So he's gonna store up a little bit of speed here, and
Nuts,
hop right
nuts.
into. Well, I mean, not just the trigger to loading zone.
Yeah, we just skipped the entire security system shutdown, but we still have to backtrack and get the buttons because the buttons give you a spatula. You'll see like there are some sections where most levels except for Sand Mountain, Bikini Bottom, and Dream and the boss fights have these secondary collectibles where, like, say for Murmulair it's the buttons, for Dutchman's it's the cannons, for Jellyfish Fields the King Jellyfish Jelly. Those collectibles still give you a spatula for collecting all of them. And once you collect all of them, you just return to the person who gave you the mission, or in this case the computer that gives you the mission. You get them. So even though we did skip to the part where you would normally hit the buttons to access, we still need the spatula anyway, so we got to do the rest of it.
Also, when are we doing Prawn then?
Prawn is later with cruise boosting.
Just don't like doing it without.
It's actually not even like, it's not really even worth it right now because we already have 40 spatulas. So if you do it earlier, you end with 41 spatulas. So it's just less consistent and it's the same speed.
Yep. All right, makes sense to me.
Yeah, but it's available for later if we find. We're pretty much saving it for if we potentially find an LCB in Sandy's Dream. What would happen then is we would take Sandy's Dream from mid game, put it in late game, and take Prawn and put it in mid game.
I see.
So you switch them around, yeah.
It's
Yeah,
just that you'll see the skip later because it was the boss that he like skipped into when he was storing speed with Patrick, and then it's just a lot easier with cruise boosting.
Yeah, so ironically, when we were talking about how the two early boss fights are like the longest parts of the game, the next two boss fights are, you essentially don't even fight them really.
You just try to get really high, or really wherever they put a boss trigger somewhere in these boss
Yeah,
levels.
they're debug triggers, and they exist in a few areas too. A lot of them are deactivated though.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, there's a trigger in the movie theater that gives you like I think it's like 1,100 shiny objects and like 11 socks or something, or like 9 socks. It's like really weird like debug stuff, but those triggers aren't active. The only active triggers in the game, off my memory, are the boss fight triggers and the trigger that's under Mrs. Puff and Rock Bottom. And that trigger is used for a trick called Art Skip, where we lag clip below the ground, touch the shiny object that's attached to a debug trigger. So it sets the Mrs. Puff's challenge to complete, and then you get the spatula for it. We're not going to use that trick in this run though, because in 100% we have to collect all the artwork associated with that spatula anyway. So that's more of a trick that you would use in like an any % no SBA run, or like a any % run, or an NG plus run. Hundo is one of the few categories that doesn't use that.
Also, when socks are homing into you, that you don't have to wait for it to like really fully come in. You'll collect it.
Once it starts attracting to you, that means you got it.
So here we are starting Industrial Park, and this is the second kind of long boss fight. But right after this is the cruise bubble gets activated, and then cruise boosting starts.
Spin to win.
Yeah, this whole first segment is more or less just waiting. The second segment is a little bit more challenging, and the third segment is where you can really lose time if you don't know what you're doing. It's second segment is a lot of reaction, and the third segment is AI manipulation. This is more or less just, it's a minute of waiting for him to spin. And that's why I suggested to the developers, like, maybe make the second spin go a little bit faster, and then he lands earlier. Maybe make the time between the attack cycles a little bit faster. There are short things you can do to keep the same amount of content in the game without fluffing it out as much. Because I do think, like, it's a 100% run. Like, obviously, if you're playing the entire game, it's not going to be perfect, So, like, with the small amount of fluff this game does have as a 100% run, I think it's pretty great.
Be a crazy mod if just like Patrick here was spinning 3 times faster and moving like twice the speed across here. That'd be awesome.
A lot of people actually ask if this fight is RNG, and the answer is yes and no, because the part that you expect to be RNG, the spinning, is actually totally consistent if you happen to be in the same exact spot every single time, which obviously is humanly for a 3D platformer not really realistic. So there's more of a range where you can get him to land, but the RNG part of the game is actually the goo drops that fly out of his ice cream in his mouth or wherever it's coming from. That part, like, what modders did one time is they disabled the RNG in this level, and they noticed that the drops had the same trajectory each time. So that pretty much proved, like, okay, well, RoboPat spinning is not RNG, but the actual little flying blobs that are going around right now are RNG.
And it's all for a set amount of seconds, too, right?
Yeah, it's always 10
Yeah,
seconds.
Always the thing.
It's always 10 seconds in phases 1 and 2, but in phase 3, it's 10 seconds until the timer stops, and once the timer stops, the game allows Patrick to land on a few designated areas on the sidelines. So you have to just know where those spots are, know when the 10 seconds are up. Sometimes you get baited. Sometimes he'll bounce off the wall, and then the 10 seconds will be up, so you just barely miscalculate, and you got to run all the way to the opposite side. But this all comes with experience and timing. A lot of it's like also music cues. You can kind of tell like where he lands after a while. Like, okay, he landed at this part of the song. He's just gonna land here. That's like 10 seconds later. It's a lot of mental notes. That's why the music is like a huge part of this game. Like music and sound. Super important to sing on cycle, yeah. One of the most important segments actually is C Needle, where you have to be able to listen to the sounds to make the cycle, and that's like way later in the run, but in my opinion, it's the best part of the run. It's really, really cool. And you'll see like the pacing of the game just keeps ramping up and up and up after this level. It's crazy. Sand Mountain is a super cool way to start. I really hope the DCBs and LCBs go well, because those tricks are very, very difficult. Unfamiliar setup can play into that, but I was doing all right practicing earlier. Hopefully it goes well. But you'll see, like, I go on these corners every time he spins. Now I'm expecting him to land like more in the front, but here's where the RNG comes into play. Is you have to be able to dodge these goo drops if you're good enough. Like in theory, you can run straight through if you're good enough, but like. You still want to be careful. If you get hit, you have to redo the entire cycle. So it's best just to be safe and also like keep your movement sharp. This is a strat that not every runner runs, because it does require pretty fast movement to get across. A lot of it's fighting the conveyor belts and reacting to where it goes. A lot of runners opt for the original strat where you do it on this platform here, the manipulation. It's not as consistent. He has a much higher chance of landing in the back, but it still sometimes works. It's the old school strat, so it worked at some point. Alright, 41 spatulas. Now, for the rest of the game, we're going to be doing some cruise boosting.
Alright, let's see it.
But first, we got to do some bowl boosting. We're going to use the teleporters on these doors to boost. If I can get it.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, there's one.
Okay, that looked cool.
Yeah, you can do 2 of those.
So there's the first cruise boost, and you're going to hear that noise in the background a lot.
Yep. And if you're wondering, after a while you get used to it. So it's not
I'm numb to it, yeah.
I always forget that SpongeBob has this huge-ass library in his house.
Yeah, another thing too is if you look closely, it's kind of cool how the game is, even though the graphics aren't amazing, it's stylized like how the show's artwork is, so it's aged remarkably well. Like even though the books in the library are just like squiggly lines stacked on top of each other, you can still tell they're books because you've watched SpongeBob. You know how the books look in the actual show, so it kind of works out in its favor where it's a stylized game based on a show where the animation itself is timeless. It works out like that.
So with cruise boosting, we can definitely notice how remarkable your speed is right now. You're definitely going super fast. When you got the spatula on the most recent map, you could tell that when you got it, you were moving forward all the time. So basically what it's doing is it's just continuously pushing you forward, allowing you to achieve insane speeds.
Yeah.
Yep, and that particular speed for normal cruise boost is around 10. For reference, his walking speed is 5. I'll explain that just a bit after we get this one that's going to be around a 30.
This one's really tricky. I've seen SHiFT do this on his stream before.
All right, this is not fast enough.
Yeah, so he's going to need to redo it. There's different variances of cruise boost as well. So there isn't just one type of cruise boost you can do. You need to also get a specific angle.
I'm on it today. Let's go.
There we look at that one. That one is moving.
Second
For sure.
Yeah, he's going so fast right now.
This one's pretty good. So you can get up to a speed of 30 on this, collectively with your walking speed included, because we're going to start differentiating between walking speed and bowling speed. What I'm doing right now to make this go this fast.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. What I'm doing right now to make this go so fast is I've trapped my bowling speed onto my de facto speed, which is a combination of your bowling speed and your walking speed combined. So my walking speed is 5. When I push forward, I get that extra boost of 5. And right now, I'd say this is around like a 15 for the cruise boost bowling speed. So it's 15 plus 5, you got 20. Pretty fast, 4 times faster than your normal walking speed, but you can get it even faster than this. You can get speeds up to 30. And when you're at 30 speed and higher, you start to get this effect where when you jump so quickly, the boost from jumping kind of like jerks the camera forward to catch up with you. It's going so fast. Hazel actually posted a task earlier today of a 60 DCB in downtown or something like that. It was pretty awesome.
But yeah, no matter what he does, he can't like move backwards. The game is just
constantly pushing you,
throwing him.
Because what it is, because
forward.
like you said, it's not your walking speed doesn't get faster. It's just your standing speed almost.
So even when he does a bubble bash, normally you cannot move forward when you just go straight up. But the game is pushing you forward. So when you saw him grab
like right here,
yeah, right here.
You'll see, like, also I'm collecting the spatula,
forward,
like, hands-free, I'm still moving.
Yeah.
You can't do anything. Like, this, everything moves around and around you. Like, unlike, compared to, like, Odyssey, where the whole game freezes when you collect the moon.
It's so
like,
trippy.
This game continues. Everything's moving in real time as you are collecting spatula. So you have to be very careful how you collect them. Otherwise, you'll fall off and you'll die. And, like, if you die, you got to redo your cruise boost. You got to reload the level. You know, it's very punishing. Now, you also have to know, like, cruise boosting itself is not as broken as you may think. There are some limitations to it. For example, it does trap your bowling speed onto your turning bowling speed. So, like, you can only turn at 1/10 of your actual turning speed. So you don't have as much freedom to turn. Let me get this quickly and I'll just continue. Damn.
That was good.
I don't think I've seen.
Yeah. So
those are actually very hard.
I watched him do it yesterday. It took him like 20 times to do it.
That's
took him like literally 20 times.
That's a ledge cruise boost there, as opposed to a displacement cruise boost we used in the last one. Displacement just pretty much means that you're getting pushed off of something or squeezed between something, you get pushed off, and you capture that speed. What I just captured there is the speed of myself falling off the ledge. Now I gotta really focus here.
Up.
All right, that's going to be rip. I'm going to have to redo that whole thing now. All right, so I think I misjudged how fast I was going there. I kind of held on the ledge too long.
Because obviously we're running 100%. He can't miss anything.
Oh my god, dude.
Jeez.
But yeah, the LCPs are on point right now.
Okay, this one might be better.
Back to back.
I just forgot the time challenge. What I'm going to do is get the socks.
Oh, I see what you did. Yeah, and then go back.
Not
and start
activating
it.
the clock.
I just don't want to, like,
You don't want to ruin this. How do you think that tastes for SpongeBob?
I think that a lot. Does that hurt or what?
Getting blisters, man.
Yeah,
There
see,
it is. Okay.
I think I made a big mistake by not going for the, I'm just going to reload now because I got to go down this way anyway, yeah, it's kind of hard to think fast and like make decisions like that when such weird stuff happens.
So the reason he had to restart is because there's a spatula for getting down this slide, and there's a spatula for when you talk to Larry, he'll give you a time challenge where you have to get into a certain speed, and you get another spatula for doing that. But you have to activate the clock in order to get that spatula.
This is good enough to.
Yeah.
Actually, wait, I just realized it's not because I have to get on the trampoline. It's so hard to like think about like marathon safety strats when you're so used to just resetting when stuff like that happens.
Yeah, I mean, at least for me, whenever I'm speedrunning, if you're used to just doing the same thing every single time, if one thing goes wrong, it will screw up the next 5 things you do. That's why we reset.
Exactly. Everything you're not continuing through.
Everything's chained, it seems like, in this game. There we go. Okay.
Oh, you had to restart it.
Yeah.
It needs to be fast, but it doesn't have to be too fast. Just enough that you can reach that trampoline. But you wouldn't be able to reach. No, I guess you probably can't talk right now. Hold on.
So you can see how impressive it was that he hit like 3 of them in a row at first, because that's usually how long it'll take.
But you wouldn't be able to hit the speed for the trampoline without doing this, like with a normal cruise boost, right?
No, a normal cruise boost.
No, because cruise boosting, when you use a cruise boost on a scripted trampoline, it just overwrites the trampoline speed with your speed. So if you're, you need to have a really fast one to be able to get on.
You can see he kind of barely makes it even with this speed.
Nah, this one's actually like good, but I gotta like. Okay, yeah. So we already got the socks. See, like this is all just like weird backup marathon jank.
Oh God!
We're
no! Oh God! Oh my God! Oh!
Whatever. It's fucked. It's already fucked.
Yeah, you needed that to go in front of you. So
yeah, this is meme as hell.
I'm enjoying it.
All right, so we're just gonna forget that this segment happened, and we're gonna forget that SBA happened. The rest of the run's gonna be 119 pace. Let's go.
Pog.
All right. Yeah, that was like. There's so many things you don't consider when you're trying to back up for a marathon.
Dude, the camera didn't know what to do.
I know. I was
Yeah, the chat's probably getting a kick out of this one.
They're having fun.
But it's hilarious how you have so much time to finish this. And like, if you guys have seen this part of the run, like before, you like this is slow. This
I don't think I've seen this part
really,
of the slide
really
in like
slow.
a year.
No, you haven't seen this since my casual play.
No, like you actually do go down here in the speed run. Yeah.
Oh,
we do this now. Yeah. But we do it with, with an
but
LCB.
I was going to say, a normal, just going down the slide. Well, not that part's right. That part's
I thought you meant you took like a slightly different path. Wasn't sure.
All right, let's just forget this.
All right, grab the spat, and it never happened.
Sick.
Okay.
All right. Well, that's going to be a lot less rocky from now on. See, it's crazy how this whole chain reaction. Like, if I just got on that ledge the first time, I gave myself a little bit more space to get on top of that ice pillar, it would have saved like 3 minutes. But you know, that's just what happens. Yeah. All right, so backtracking time.
Yeah, so this is what we mean by once you get when your first run through most of the worlds or most of the levels, you kind of set up for when you cruise boost through and just finish up everything that you couldn't do first. And so he's just gonna go get the last couple spatulas and socks from all the places we've already been cruise boosting.
So cruise boosting, it just allows you to get them without actually going through the map and doing everything.
Yeah. Essentially, like just stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. I see.
It's just a lot faster.
Well, that's nuts.
And here there's a whole boss fight.
What? Wait. Whoa.
Down
yeah,
there.
I just don't feel like doing it.
Exactly.
What?
So there's that's a trigger that ends the boss fight for when they were testing the game, and they just kind of left it in there. And
so you don't even need to do the boss fight. You just go in there and trigger, and then you're good.
That's it.
Yep.
Wow.
That was the boss fight.
That's so nuts. So the first 2 bosses you have to do. There's nothing you can do.
Yeah, they were actually programmed by different developers. So the developer who made those, he used a different debug tool for it. So it's not, you can't just use the debug trigger. It's a debug timer, and it's inactive, so it doesn't work.
Just watch this.
There's glass, bro. How's he gonna get that?
Just
Whoa,
squeeze
what?
on in.
Yeah.
Just gotta squeeze through.
Called
This run really gets crazy.
It's called an L bowl. So it's like the same. It's the same inputs as cruise boosting, but you're on an uneven surface, so it comes out as a bowl. So the bowling animation prioritizes instead of the cruise bubble animation prioritizing. So instead you get that, and because the cruise bubble has some frames where it's not checking your collision, it's not checking your collision, and you're getting a bowl boost, so you just kind of launch through the glass.
Wow.
Now, you played this as a kid, right?
I played as a kid. Yeah.
Do you remember at all what you normally have to do? It's a crazy puzzle. It's annoying, and yeah, it's so nice that you
for
can
that
see
one,
it.
right?
For that one,
Yeah.
I struggled so
Literally takes
so
you
much.
like 30 minutes to do that. Yeah.
So that's another example of a lot of times when you have to do something to activate, when a spatula is waiting to appear until you do something, usually it's just stored underground. And so if you can manage a way to get under it, you can usually get the spatula without having to do whatever leads up to it.
See, the funny thing is about that trick is it only saves 3 seconds because the alternative is just hitting the button with the cruise bubble, which is also just broken anyway because you shouldn't be able to do that. It's meant to be hit with a melon.
So SHiFT's going to drown some kids here, and he's on a very specific cycle for it.
Yeah, this is a tight cycle.
Like, even if he missed a cruise boost, he just
he
restart
restarts,
completely.
Yeah, I missed cruise boosts in both, but I was able to recover it because I got the cycle where the kid turns inward. There are like different there are different patterns you can get, and it's more like reaction based to like which one you get if you mess up. If you don't mess up, it's the same every time though.
All kids rescued, except for we could see clearly 2 of them drowned.
See, like in the current build that I played for the Battle for Bikini Bottom remake, you actually hit the kids and the balloons pop. So I think it's weird. Like I think they're trying to address the weird thing where it's like the kids drown. I don't know. It's like a little bit different.
This is really difficult. He is making sure that the tikis are like low as possible. So you can jump back on them. If they're a little bit higher, he is not going to make it back on.
The tikis just kind of bob up and down, so you wanna jump off when it's high, so you get enough height, and so like you're on the cycle for them to be low, so you just kind of like barely slip on.
So it's difficult.
SHiFT
makes it look
optimization.
he makes it look easy.
Yeah, it's another very small optimization, like maybe a couple of seconds as opposed to the alternative strat. All right, we're done with most of the backtracking. Now we're going to do the rest of Jellyfish Fields, and I love this segment. There's so much going on here.
Oh, Jellyfish Fields with cruise boost is sick.
That's also a very tight jump. I've seen him miss that all.
I mean, he grabbed it right there. He was barely even close enough to get that.
If you think that's close, wait till you see the next one.
I'm scared for you, bro.
All right, so yeah, this is one of the newer routes here. Is we get the suck early, and we're gonna do this barrel thing. There was a really cool strat here that used to exist where you'd float over the goo during a cutscene, but now we just kind of jump over. It's more optimized, but I prefer the old way.
All right.
This looks cool.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
What?
Okay. I saw you in a little bit of the water. I was scared.
The hitbox is a little bit deceiving, but it actually is like super close.
I was gonna say I didn't think you made that, honestly.
That did not look possible. That did not look possible.
Right there, he skips a tiny cutscene where
we're gonna skip a
teach you how
spatula
to like
animation
read a
too.
sign or something.
Power of cruise boosting.
Yeah, so if we touch the spatula on the way into the loading zone, it just skips the whole spatula animation.
And that's the whole thing with these animations that are going on that would normally freeze SpongeBob. You're
That's what
still
we were
moving
talking about at the
forward.
beginning.
Yeah.
So-
He has a lot of optimizations. You'll
What's
see.
the leniency there? Is it pretty frame tight?
That one's pretty lenient, but
Yeah.
there are
Okay.
ones called R cancels, and R canceling is actually 1 frame. So you have to actually hit
There's
the
one in
yeah.
Rock Bottom that he'll do that.
Yeah, I'm probably not going to get that because the latency is a little bit different on this monitor than I'm used to. But yeah, it's a pretty cool trick. You have to press R on the exact frame you touch the spatula, so you can enter the level and get the spatula at the same time. So yeah, but there's like R canceling, there's L control. There's a lot of like really cool stuff you can do with the triggers. L trigger is the most commonly used in this game, though. It's a lot of the tech skills using L and B, because it's like the basis of like cruise boosting and elbowing and stuff like that, you know.
SHiFT, is there a way to transfer cruise boosting to any of the other characters?
Unfortunately not, but you can do it by editing memory values if you want to hack the game. Which is we've like played around with like Sandy cruise boosting and Patrick cruise boosting,
really
but
cool.
you can't actually get it in the game. It's possible though. According to the engine allows it, but it's not possible to obtain at the moment. There's actually also negative cruise boosting where you go in the reverse direction, like the moonwalking. If you just set yourself to negative speed and it gives you like negative cruise boosting.
Oh, but you can't actually do that in the game.
Yeah, you can't do it in the game because it's like a paradox kind of. Where,
Yeah.
like, you can't be moving at negative speed because no matter which way you're moving, like even if you're moving literally backward, like you're still moving. So.
Wish we could because speedrunners love negative speed.
Yeah.
It's broken in so many different games.
That's the time zone skip. You do an hour-long run, you cross over a time zone, you get a negative time.
Oh.
What?
Well, just a little
whoa,
flip
whoa,
there.
whoa, whoa.
Yeah, there's a little trigger here. If you touch that, it checkpoints you, and you end up.
So right now he's 100% out of bounds.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
He's
he
all-
triggered
He's kind of like inbounds if you really think about it. he's like inside of everything.
And we do all that just for one sock. That's it. We do that for one sock.
That's how 100% is. And there's some kind of skip to get essentially everything in this game. So
Yeah, the strat we use in any percent, you literally just run under the entire map. But there's a lot of extra junk you have to do just to get that one sock. But it's fun and it's good movement.
Yeah.
And it's challenging, so it's good. There's a really hard strat in there, or not hard actually. It's more just inconsistent because we don't understand how it works. The pressure plates in this game are like very strange, where we don't actually understand 100% how they work. We think it's like some global timer BS, but pretty much there's an LCB in that cave where you can get enough speed to run through the gate and not have to clip out and checkpoint and death warp and stuff. But the problem is the gate inconsistently jumps between 15 frames open and 50 frames open. So we don't know how to determine it yet. We looked into like music cycles and stuff, but we're not entirely sure. It can save up to 20 seconds if we figure that out.
Alright, here comes a big boy lag clip. Have we done any other lag clips?
This is the first lag
This
clip.
is the first one. Alright. So, and again, we were talking that he was using a different Xbox, a little bit slower one, and it's going to hopefully allow him to clip much easier.
You're going to have to explain this.
there we go.
Oh my god.
It's just, he's just lagging the crap out of the game, and you just clip through.
Yeah,
I really
it can't load all the textures and everything, so
You're constantly going in and out of the pause menu, which also comes up and down in one frame. So you can just do like frame perfect mashing, get tons of pause screens to come up and down.
is there a certain angle or
Yeah,
you
the
just
angle.
kinda-
The angle is very
angles what
specific.
matters?
Yeah,
Okay,
you have to
okay.
have a certain camera angle to get the right amount of lag, and you also have to mash the L trigger really, really fast. So on those frames where you extend downward enough, because when you lag this game, it's frame based. So when the game gets slower, when the frames extend, it makes the game run slower. So when your frames extend, when you're lagging and falling into the ground, you kind of just like push into the ground more. And because we mentioned earlier, the cruise bubble has some frames where you're not having your collision checked. You're getting pushed into the ground with your collision not being checked, so you just kind of just fall through.
And when that trick for that lag clip when it first got found, it was
You used to jump all the way from the top of the mountain because we didn't know that your peak velocity happens just from like a little bash.
So I feel like you
On the
used to
fountain.
hate that lag clip.
That
Yeah,
used
it was
to be,
terrible.
That
Also,
was,
that trick is really hard, but we're just
Wow.
going to lightly brush over it. Yeah, it was,
Yeah.
there's
You
a lot-
make
there's
it
a lot
look
of stuff
easy.
like that,
You
yeah.
make it look too easy, dude. How am I supposed to know it's hard?
yeah, Drain the Lake is like, it saves like 40 seconds. It makes the run so much more interesting to watch. I really enjoy that.
Also, after this is one of my favorite ones where he kind of slides into the loading zone. Watch this.
yeah, this is the thing with the cruise boosting.
Watch
is
it.
You
Oh,
can
come on.
always you can manipulate the camera to go wherever you're trying to go, and you don't have to waste the time because you're watching the spatula animation.
You gotta be
anyway.
careful though, because once you commit to that angle, you cannot move
Yeah,
anything.
exactly.
You're just getting pushed straight to it. If you have the wrong angle, you get pushed off the cliff and you die.
Yep. And this boss just becomes trivial.
Great as possible.
I love how the people who are redeveloping this game as an
was easy.
Unreal Engine remake, they put a force field around the jellyfish this time, so you can't hit
Oh.
him
Yeah, because you're
with the cruise bubble.
yeah, it looks so easy because you're
Yeah.
not supposed to have the cruise bubble really when you're
Oh,
The
I
idea is
see.
you
That's
didn't-
what
yeah.
happens. Okay, okay.
Yeah, you have to wait for him to like
So the
try to
cruise ball is
attack
just
you.
broken. Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah, there's a
Straight
lot of stuff
busted.
because they expected this to be like the tutorial boss fight. Like, you
Exactly,
should already be
yeah.
done with this by then, but since we played the game thousands of times, we know like you can just go back here with the cruise bubble and make it easier, make it faster.
Yeah, okay.
We got one more sock after this. Also, coming up is Kelp Forest. I love this segment.
Kelp,
It's
I
another-
think Kelp Forest in 100 is my favorite level that we've ever had in any category.
Nice. Yeah, you can cancel your cruise bubbles on spatulas too, just like that. That angle is pretty precise. And then, of course, like the spinning happens where the game's trying to keep you in frame. So you got to turn your camera angle to make sure that when you're done spinning, you're not facing the opposite direction because you have 1/10 your turning speed and you got to waste a lot of time turning around if you're not facing the right direction. There's a lot that goes into the angles where you touch spatulas and like this too. Like you've noticed a lot of the taxi stuff. Like you do like some like weird thing to get on top of the taxi early is because you can skip the cutscene for each taxi if you go on top of the taxi early. You kind of like you get the prompt early and you can leave during the cutscene. So it saves like a second or two each time you do it. Depends on which one you're doing.
This level is really interesting because he's about Well, he's doing
Some
it
like
all,
weird like
like
invisible collision boxes out of bounds we use. That strat saves like under half a second if you do it perfectly.
Are you still going through the level like backwards? Or?
No, in 100 you don't really go through
okay.
that.
Well, in
No, you do. You do this part in order, and then you backtrack at the beginning, and then you go back.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
you guys will see it in a second. I was just a little bit early on it. But basically what he will be doing, what you'll notice is that he'll be going through the level backwards, which obviously is not, because at the end of each section, the game's like, all right, here's your spatula. But when you go through backwards, it's like you're just going through and you're just grabbing the spatula at the very end of each.
Exactly.
One.
Yeah.
So
That bola I did off the ledge there is actually like kind of precise. You can actually cancel your bowling animation if you do it off a ledge just the right way. You guys, Nez and Noel, big melee guys. So like it's like edge canceling, but you do it with the bowling ball on the edge, so it just cancels your animation. You can you can instantly act out of it. Yeah, but you retain your momentum too. We're actually gonna do this thing called L control now.
Did you get the camper?
This whole part's like, I'm gonna try to get this L control. It's a 1-frame L touch on the spatula.
SHiFT, did you get the camper?
Did I get the camper? Did I wait? I should have gotten the camper.
Did he forget?
It said 2. Should you have 2?
I should have 3. Did it not count it? I might have to go
I
back.
don't know, bro.
All right, I can get it later. It's not the end of the world. I know when I'll get it.
I'm glad you caught that because
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
I'm just a
That might be
genius. It totally wasn't reading chat.
So like, I kind of like, I kind of like felt that was like weird. Like I didn't get some kind of like a confirmation. Like something felt off. I couldn't tell what it was, but I just didn't really think about it. That's a good point. Yeah, a lot of weird stuff happening in this marathon run. Also, that nearly killed me.
Dude, that was a nice save.
Yeah, so slides are, you saw on Sand Mountain, but cruise boosting makes slides so much more enjoyable.
Yeah, that's a pretty recent time save that was found. It saves like a few seconds where you keep your cruise boost on the slide. It's actually been experimented with before. Like obviously we thought like, oh, yeah, it's not like it's the first time we realized like maybe you can cruise boost on the slide. Like the problem was that the scripted leaves were throwing you off. So remember I mentioned earlier it overwrites your speed. So it was just now that we found a route where you can use those scripted leaves with the cruise boosting and still get across. Yeah, this trick is really precise. You're jumping on that little leaf that's hanging off the vine. It's so thin, it's like paper. You have to kind of just barely stand on it. And remember, you're being pushed forward while you're cruise boosting too. So you have to use a lot of analog stick shenanigans to stay on that leaf to be able to bash off of it. Also, I almost
this crystal
got that
section
clip.
is so precise.
Yeah, I almost got the clip there. It saves like 10 seconds, but this is this is the backup where we do a death warp.
Yeah, you can't even be too torn up about not getting this because it is so crazy.
Yeah, that trick, the clip is very difficult. You gotta have just the right angle. You gotta clip through at just the right height. I don't even expect to get that in my attempts.
Really?
Yeah, I just go for it. I really hope it works. I'm working on a more recently found strat called Caves Camper Early, where we use the elbow strategy. Kind of like
really?
It's a displacement elbow, so it's kind of like the ballroom clip, but we use a bowling ball to displace. It's like a combination of ballroom and DCB. If you remember GCC back in the day, the original one before the lag clip was a thing, it's like that, where we use a bowling ball to clip through that gate as soon as we get into the caves and we get that area early. Saves 8 seconds. So it's pretty hard to save time with it. If you're doing it in attempts, you're pretty much banking on getting it first or second try. Otherwise, you're losing a lot. So that's why I'm kind of working on it on the sidelines, just trying to get a 118. Once I get a 118, I'll probably start implementing it a lot more. This next segment in the swamps has another lag clip. This one's kind of weird though because we have to clip into the ground a very specific way at a very specific place, because if we don't, we're going to slide off the wrong direction because there's a collision box on a rock that extends under the stage. So if we slide on it just the right way, we can slip under the cage to get the spatula. Now this spatula is unique in that the spatula itself is not actually a spatula, it's just a visual of a spatula. The actual spatula trigger is the box inside of this bamboo cage. So if you go under it, you still get it. And that was 2 pauses. Very
fun.
What the heck?
Jeez,
I've
dude.
seen
you do like hundreds.
So yeah, you just respawn. What I just got here is an L control where you can turn the camera like that. If you noticed that earlier, that means that I missed the 1 frame spatula cancel by 1 frame. So if you get it on the 2nd frame, you come back, you get this effect where you can turn the camera while you're collecting a spatula, because it kind of cancels the zoom in effect. That when you don't have a cruise boost, it's not useful. However, if you have a cruise boost active, because you're always moving and it's cruise boosting always moves in the direction you're facing, you can use L control with a cruise boost to get, like, you can move during spatula animations. That's what I was trying to do earlier on the kelp vines, where I said I'm going to go for this L control. So if I got it, I would have been able to move around, touch the trigger for the end of Mermaid Man's time challenge, and get that early.
Do you think that was because of the?
So I have to actually do this now.
But do you think it was because of the Xbox that you got the 2? Is that?
No, that could still happen.
That's just it's a tough time.
Sometimes
Okay.
it happens. Sometimes it doesn't. It happens on my Xbox at home as well.
Okay.
Light clips today feel pretty normal. I feel like GCC hasn't been really working on this console though. It's very strange. But yeah, not unlike the rest of this run with some of the stuff that's been happening.
I can't wait to see Nez's reaction to GCC.
Yeah. Well, I hope it works because I don't know. This Xbox been kind of jank with that trick.
Please deliver.
Yeah, that's a sock that a lot of people didn't find when they were kids.
Yeah, I don't think so.
You just gotta bowl a strike with the tikis. Yeah, unlike most categories in this game, we're gonna end not with Graveyard actually. This is the end of the segment where hands is disabled. After this, starting in downtown, we're gonna enable the hand, and we're gonna use that to skip cutscenes and like die faster in some areas, like falling off of downtown rooftops instead of getting the death cycles, which can take varying amounts of time. It's
platforming.
This part is actually very specific how we have to land on this rock. I'm at just the right angle, so during this cutscene, he just ever so slightly slips off the rock, and you'll see I'm going to appear much closer, right around here.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm taking a guess you're probably going to clip into that box too.
How'd you know?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah. You have to usually purchase a clam to get in there. See, GCC back in the day before there were lag clips or SBA, it was a super difficult trick, and it would lose, like, if you were doing 100%, you would save over a minute for doing it, so it was very rewarding. But now SBA exists, so you can buy the clam without really taking too much damage to your wallet, and it's also a lag clip, so now it's like a much easier trick, and the alternative is just losing 20 seconds. But of course, like, as the game develops, some things get easier, some things get harder. Overall, it seems like the game is just getting harder though. So, you know, you win some, you lose some. I personally don't like when harder tricks get obsolete, but it doesn't happen very often with this game, so we're pretty fortunate for that, in my opinion. It makes the game more interesting to watch. Yeah, this is very similar to the cow bungee skip in the beginning of the game, where we just jump into the bungee section, and it's like we just warp to the bungee, so it's like kind of a mirror of Jellyfish Fields, if you will. Damn. You have one shot to get that, because the mast is moving.
Oh, yeah. I remember your reaction to this.
Yep, because back when we found this, the game was milk dry, because we didn't know about...
He popped off.
Yeah, we didn't know about, like, elbowing, we didn't know about DCBs, and lag clipping, and SBA. Like, the game was pretty much just, like, cruise boosting, damage boosting, 1 frames.
All these things have really been discovered within the past, like, year or so.
Couple of years, yeah.
A couple of years.
It's blown up recently.
It was like...
There's so many tricks, bro. It just makes me wonder, like, what else can be discovered in the next couple months, years. Like,
Everyone wonders that.
Yeah, it's wild, man.
This specific trick is a little, like, quarter of a second time save. It's really cool, though, because this button I just hit there brings the cannon down. So you have to do it in this specific order, because we use the cannon in its up position to boost onto the mast. And because it was up, we could do that, and now that it's down, we can't go back up there. So in my practice file that I have for this, what I do is I have the cannon buttons not pressed already, because you got to practice the movement. You have to practice the movement with the cannons not pressed, otherwise you can't do it.
This is a kind of new.
All right, I barely missed it. Yeah, if you hit the button on the chest and float into the spatula, you can watch the spatula animation during this cutscene here.
Easy back
So it
up.
saves a little bit of time, yeah. Saves like 4 or 5. Yeah, there's a lot of most of this last part of the game is movement tech, whereas as we mentioned earlier, the beginning part is like setup based, method based tricks. Yeah, that's like weird, but that was not intentional, but it worked. Sometimes that happens where because you're being like your movement is so restricted for turning when you have cruise boosting. Sometimes you just kind of like go off to the wrong direction.
So here's another example of a boss fight that you don't actually fight. This is you don't even get into it, really.
This is also a good example of how using analog stick to influence your movement is crucial for cruise boosting. Like you have to really turn the analog stick a lot while you're moving.
It just happened.
Nice boss fight.
It's kind of like tank pilots, Like you're using both sticks to kind of maneuver around. But it's super fun and it's unique to this game.
Yeah, so when you hit that trigger, it activated the cutscene that usually comes on after you beat the
After you beat it, okay. I was curious if it was before or after.
And since there's no power or anything associated with that
Flat
fight,
clip.
you just
Very
get
nice.
the spatula.
Very nice.
And that trick's flat clipping, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
That is where GCC used to be.
Yeah, GCC used to be very similar to the DCB you saw earlier, where you roll the ball up against the wall and you go under it and you just get stuck.
But I'm pretty sure you had to be in a specific position. You had to have all the right factors to try and get that.
Yeah, you kind of have like the facing the right way. There are a bunch of angles that work, but the way I do it is like I face that specific way and that angle, and I mash at a certain time. Yeah.
Seems more consistent for sure.
Excuse me, Puff. I just need you for a boost. Thank you very much.
You guys seen the pufferfish meme going around with the carrot? The pufferfish eating the carrot.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, actually I have.
Yeah. Mrs. Puff eating the cruise boost. Somebody's got to do an edit of that. Yeah, this is where things kind of turn a little bit for the strategy.
You can't miss
We're
these
going-
buttons, really.
We're going straight out of bounds here, and we're going to get the hand to come back on the screen again. So now, at this point, because I was on the dunes for 2 seconds, now the hand is back in the run. So we're going to use this for the remainder of the marathon.
And that was also used to skip the cutscene of that spatula appearing.
Yeah, it saves like 1 second because
Okay.
it skips the reload. It skips the reload, and it also skips the cutscene. Yeah.
And it might be a little bit confusing to people because like you're out of bounds, but it's because you're touching the ground, right? When you're out of bounds, like falling, that's like different, where Hans won't grab you. Or how does that exactly work?
It's only when you're touching
The timer
starts when you touch the ground.
The timer,
I see.
It starts when you touch the ground, and when you're on the ground, the timer counts up. Also, I'm for sure going to retime that later because I'm pretty sure that was a gold segment.
I was going to say, that was...
Wow.
I just saw you working on that like a couple days ago or something.
Yeah, that robot, like its positioning inside the fallen building is actually just RNG. Unfortunately, it's a new strat that has RNG. Usually, we hope to find strats that reduce it. But honestly, complaining about RNG in this game probably just means you're bad, really, or you're just too good. Either way, I feel like most people who are like not really experienced don't even notice the RNG because it's so minimal. Like what happens if that's not in the right spot is you lose like a second having to hit it into the right spot. So it's more of like a nitpick there, where it's like, like trying to optimize as much as possible. How much RNG can we get rid of? Is it this little 2-second thing? Can we get rid of this? Can we get rid of that? It's like
The platform here is so cool because there's so many things you can jump off of. A lot of these buildings, the devs never even expected you to be able to get on top of. They just wanted it for the aesthetic, but
oh yeah.
Yeah, this is downtown at any percent, or downtown without cruise boosting is very different from this one.
Yeah, any percent, no SBA. Uses Sandy to get across these and collect all the wheels, but that whole section that you need to use the Sandy to get up here just doesn't even have like really wheels, honestly, so you can just skip the whole thing. Yeah, they're very jank ledge grabs.
wow.
Here. That almost hit me. That hitbox is a lot bigger than it looks.
Oh yeah. Anyone that's played this game and gotten yeeted off a ledge knows for sure.
that thing is-
For sure.
So I'm going to zoom in my camera here to force the camera lock zoom in so I don't lose my cruise boost. If I didn't zoom in there, okay, well, I apparently still got grabbed. All right, well, as you can see, that strat needs a little bit of work. It's relatively new.
Wait, what were we trying to do there?
If you get locked onto the building, you don't have to get your cruise boost again. You don't die.
Yeah.
So it just like saves you the time of having to like do that whole like,
Luckily
button
that,
press thing.
that
You can just boost on
cost, like,
top.
a second or two max. It was not
Yeah,
bad.
it's just like a lot of these, like this route is like pretty new. some small changes here and there, like tiny movement optimization. Like as I said earlier, that split that I got earlier probably golded. If you know what, because this Xbox has slow loads, it might not have. But yeah, I wouldn't have been able to say that if it weren't for the fact that this route is like pretty unoptimized right now. 100% is always changing. We're always finding new stuff. Because for years and years we just focus on.
Whoa,
80%.
nice shot.
Yeah. Sometimes you get that nice placement. Other times you got to really work for it. But that was like pretty nice. Most of the time in previous routes of this game, downtown is over here. But we actually still have to do C needle, so we're just going to go ahead and run over there now. And this is my favorite part of the run, as long as I don't get wrecked on it. When we actually get into the needle.
Number 1 in the Bikini Bottom scavenger hunt, 3 years running.
I love the hot sauce reference here with the hot sauce hurts you. When I was at the development studio, helping the guys work on the new game, they mentioned like how do they determine like what hurts you in this game, like what the enemies are, and they mentioned like they brought up a good point that a lot of it is just like foods that SpongeBob doesn't like or just robots. So it's kind of interesting how they kind of kept it like G-rated, if you will, by making that kind of like, you know. All right, so cruise boost needle. This saves 12 seconds if done perfectly. If not, you just go even with the normal cycle.
That's a very tight cycle.
Or you die. You lose over a minute, so.
Let's see how it goes.
Because when he goes down, you're going to see that the Tikis are moving. They move in a very specific way. They move the same every single time. So.
Yeah, and another thing too is like I still have cruise boosting. I can't stop myself from moving during these cutscenes, so we got to like really go up against these ledges to make sure I don't fall.
It's like the little nuance that you really wouldn't understand if you were just watching.
Okay, I just lost the run.
Oh.
Well, we're going to redo this whole thing. See, I was kind of getting greedy there. I really wanted to make that cycle and show off the fastest thing, but I should just taken it. I should just accepted that I wasn't going to make it, so.
Yeah, and what sucks is there aren't really any, well, there are checkpoints, but the Tikis respawn, right? Or
well, the Tikis respawn, yeah.
Yeah,
and the whole cycle's off. I was going to mention, like, the reason why I died there is because you have to make sure you're facing inward when you get off those bungees, otherwise you just die.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hans come to get you.
Yeah, I see that part is definitely the hardest part there is getting that one.
Getting the right one
But
the
I'm just
right.
going to do now what I should have done earlier and just like take it slowly. We're going to do the normal cycle, but you'll see like there's going to be a lot of waiting in this next part because I did miss that. People get really anxious on that part because of the chuck. But yeah, the chuck is much better at sniping you out. I listen to music here. It's really hard to gauge the cycle when you have to do reload cycle because I'm used to playing this part with the music in sync with loading the level. Because when you reload the level and when you
come on, there you go.
No.
Oh wait, it didn't activate.
When you reload the level versus when you enter the level for the first time, the music cues are different.
There it is.
So, yeah, it's like it's confusing a little bit.
Yeah, so
it's another example like with Sand Mountain where if you, wow, I went over this patch. That's
Zoom
weird.
in.
I've never seen that.
I like went over the wheel, like stood on it. That was so jank. But
Yeah, it really was.
This is another Sand Mountain type segment where if one thing goes wrong, you lose multiple minutes. And honestly, this run's been pretty smooth so far, except for Sand Mountain, this, and like SBA. Just segments where like if one little tiny thing goes wrong, you lose minutes. So not bad for showcasing so far.
Most hype part of the run. Here it is.
Rainbow Ride.
All right, it's over.
The big spatula in the sky. Jumps a lot tighter than it looks. All right. What a lot of people do there is they get a little slow cruise boost to get a tiny bit of speed boost.
Helps make that ledge a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. Damn, we're already at 117. See, it's not just the mistakes. It's also like I'm losing a couple of minutes to loading screens on this Xbox. I know it. So I'll just next run, I'll be sure to get a new one to use for these marathons. I just don't like taking my the run that I use for runs, I don't like taking that out of the house.
It doesn't matter too much.
Yeah.
It doesn't take away from your skill or what
it's
you're
just,
doing.
It's just habit. It's habit. Always thinking about the standards. You know.
I understand.
Yeah.
I
So
understand
in 80% on the Mrs. Puff that he just cruise boosted off of, that's the one where the shiny object is below her, and that's the trigger for the spatula where you get all the art. But since it's 100%, he's got to manually go through and get all the art pieces.
Yeah. Another thing too is we're gonna skip the entire level now because you can hit that button there. You're supposed to hit with your bubble slam. We can hit with cruise bubble because again, like Jellyfish Fields, the boss fight, the devs didn't realize that you can just hit that with the cruise bubble, so you can just skip the whole level like that. So yeah, the timer is always at 40 here because you don't actually start the time challenge, but the spatula is still there. I guess like a way they could have prevented this or like helped prevent it somewhat is like the spatula doesn't spawn until you just step onto the slide to start the challenge. Just like small stuff like that. Little tiny things that were not, they're just kind of overseen a little bit that completely changed the entire run. That's an example too of how cruise boosting overwrites scripted trampolines. That trampoline is supposed to send you in the opposite direction, but because we have cruise boosting, you can just use it to push yourself in this direction, whatever direction you want really. We were talking about earlier, Noel brought up the R cancel in Rock Bottom, and that's coming up here. Probably not going to get it because of the latency.
No, you got this. You got this. Full faith. So tight.
I think that might be it.
Did you touch
I
it?
think I got it. 85?
Come on. Come on.
85. I
Oh
got it.
my gosh.
See,
That was sick. And
That's
I,
the one frame, right?
I never get
Yeah.
to see you do it.
Wow.
See, that's the thing is like, I was thinking to myself like, if I just try to do this a frame earlier than I usually would, I might get it because there's a frame of delay.
And how much time does
And then
that
I got
save?
it. So
That's
very,
spatula
very minimum
animation.
time.
that saves
Okay.
that saves 6 seconds if you
There's
get it.
6
Yeah,
seconds.
it's
I
just
mean,
saves the spatula.
well, I guess
If
not
you-
not having to go back out there is pretty nice too.
Yeah,
It's,
If you miss it, if you're too late, it loses like 15. If you
Yeah.
miss, if you miss it, it goes even with what we would have gotten for not doing it.
That's how this game works, is you do crazy hard inputs to save like 7 seconds.
And if you miss it, you lose a minute.
Exactly.
Yeah, museum, definitely one of the most technical movement areas. There's so many small things to optimize.
yeah,
And because these things are all solid, that thing I just bounced off there, the little light bulb, should have mentioned this earlier, but I love the way this game detects how your bubble bounce reacts to objects around you. So there are 2 types of objects in the level. There's the map itself, which is just like the base map that's loaded into the game, and you have the props, which are like, for example, that light bulb you saw there. So if SpongeBob's bubble bounce lands on the map, you kind of get the squishing effect where you just kind of get stuck to the ground, and if you land on a prop, it bounces you off. So you have to, it's kind of just game knowledge where you have to know which ones bounce you off and which ones don't, because there are some areas where you can use it to get faster movement. There are areas where you don't want to do it because you get slower movement and so forth.
Thank you.
That's an example of one of the damage boosts in the game that are actually in late game, because most of the time we just use cruise boosting to obsolete the damage boosts we would have used. However, in this situation, it's one of the few damage boosts that actually give you enough height to get over, as opposed to cruise boosting, which isn't very good for height. So it's one of those rare situations where the damage boosting actually does survive in a cruise boosting segment. This segment has changed quite a bit in the past couple of weeks, actually. A lot of developments made here where you can just hit these lasers with the cruise bubble and do the cutscene skip a little bit differently instead of what we used to do, where we hit all 3 of them with cruise boosting. So this segment's become a lot more trick-based than movement-based.
that looks so weird.
Yeah, it's with those animation cancels, man. It's like when animations interrupt each other, the game just doesn't know what to do, I guess.
Do it all.
The reason why we actually bash into that bungee hook, though, it's the same amount of time as jumping, but the reason why is because you preserve your double jump if you don't use it to get into the bungee, so you can use it to kind of like go straight for the falling platforms that are on the way to plankton, as opposed to just like having to regain, like land on the ground again to regain your double jump.
Is there any reason that you went right to the very ledge of that? Like the very,
you
very,
can
very
barely
edge?
reach the
Yeah, you
the
can barely
button.
reach it, yeah.
Wow. Sketchy.
You can also get hit by the tartar sauce guy too, so you got to put yourself in the right position so that the shots don't actually hit you. Just got to pick up the artwork spatula, and we'll be good to go. Any percent is so weird. Like, we get the spatula. The first thing we do is we get the spatula in any percent. It's very different. Like, when you enter rock bottom, you just lag clip, get the spatula, and then you don't even come back there later. Yeah, one of my favorite movement segments in the game here.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Mainly because of the trumpets here. If this wasn't a thing, then it would be so much different.
It really just throws you for a loop because you just kind of like, you sequence break it twice. You know?
Yeah.
So you turn straight around and go the opposite direction. Like, whoa. Different here though is that we can't touch the spatula without bowling, because if you touch the spatula with the cruise boost, you get pushed off, and because the hand is enabled in this run. In any percent, the hand's disabled here, but in this run, you have to account for the fact that, like, if you have the hand enabled, you have to, if you fall off and die and get grabbed, you lose time. Right. Little tiptoe recovery there for the reverse cruise boost. All right, this is a cutscene skip that we're going to do here. So if you pause before the cutscene comes up, you can reload and do this. Yeah, see, my timing for that's like weird. I actually did that faster than I usually do it because...
What did you input?
It's A and then B. So you bowl off the ledge and you die.
Oh, I see.
Usually there's like a specific sound cue you wait for to do it, so that, because the game takes a little bit of time to load in, and if the game is still like loading stuff in and the voice lines don't start yet, it kind of eats your bowling input, so you kind of don't skip the cutscene. So in that situation, because this Xbox has such slow loads, I was in a situation where I almost didn't wait long enough because the Xbox took longer to load the level. I'm really trying to get the second cutscene skip here, yeah, just to show it off. I am losing time here, but I do want to show off the second cutscene skip.
And falling right off the ledge.
Yep. Now, obviously, in an actual attempt, it would be slow to really force that to happen if it's not going to happen naturally, but. You know, in this case, I just want to show it off. So.
And you grab the sock there.
Yep. Yeah, that's why you do it. You cancel the cutscene, you spawn in the beginning, and you grab the sock.
That's really sick.
All right. Now we're gonna trade in all the socks to Patrick. It's pretty similar to the crabs part where we trade in all the golden spatulas. And we're gonna get 98. It's really nice explaining how this is a 100% run to people, because it's very obvious when you have 100 spatulas, you have 100%. So you can see the percentages counting up. And the final two spatulas are the ones right at the end.
Yeah, you gotta love the games that do like, oh, 106%, 117%.
Yeah, and then like the games where it's like the requirements are kind of hard for viewers to understand. That's why Mario games are so nice to watch, because even if you don't know what the game is, like, it's just a certain number of stars. Yep. And you know you're done.
So when he gets to a Robo Sponge, this is my personal favorite boss fight, and it's definitely the quickest.
Gotta hit those squats, I guess.
Here we are, folks, the main event. A gauntlet of ever-increasing ferocity. The robot better change tactics and fast.
There we go. Oh, yeah.
I was going for the absolute.
So what happened right there? What happened right there?
I was going for the absolute perfect one where you barely touched the trigger.
It's like how in Prawn, how he just reached that point where there's the trigger to end the boss.
Oh,
that's stick trigger.
okay.
That
Yeah,
point
so there was a trigger. So
directly above that platform.
as soon as he like karate chopped it, then he got lit. Okay, that makes sense.
It's only that platform too. It just happens to be the one.
And now we're going inside the brain instead of actually doing the final boss challenge. We're just clipping through everything to get to the final part.
This is much cooler.
I'm gonna call time when I hit the final fuse. Normally we have to go around and fight a bunch of robot trials and keep Roboplankton in check to do this, but we're just inside the brain right now. We've used a scripted trampoline to get in here. So.
Almost there.
And
time. Wow.
A 1:26 51. Very good job, SHiFT. Really fun run.
Hell yeah.
This is just an example of one of those games where, and it wasn't like this in the past, where 100% compared to any percent where you get 77 spatulas, and in this run you get 100. 23 extra spatulas. Back before SBA, those 23 extra spatulas made the run so slow and so boring. Yeah. But now, like, those 23 spatulas have all become faster, and we're at a point where it's like we don't want to skip the extra 23 because the ones that are cut out of any percent are still fun. So it's just a matter of like, you find more stuff about your game, you look in the areas that weren't really too hot in your main category for using tricks in. They weren't looked into for the main speedrun. But if you take some time to look at the other categories, like improve the areas that people aren't focusing on because they're not as competitive, you can get something like this someday.
Right, you're able to manipulate it
Absolutely.
and get what you want.
Yeah,
And
with a good
there we have it, a
Speedrun.
1:26:51 by SHiFT.
Yo,
Let's
Shift,
go.
you can come join us on the couch, actually.
Sick, all right.
Yeah, come hop over here.
This is like kind of
the
taped to
casting
the ground.
couch.
But, okay, we're good. All right. I'll just skip this cutscene. There's actually a bonus that you get for 100% at the end. It plays this little Spongebob theme song, but I'll just skip it. Yeah. Oh, it's not playing the game audio, is it?
No,
Oh,
you're
it's
fine,
alright,
bro. You're
yeah,
fine.
it's okay.
No worries.
All right, just making sure. I don't want them singing Spongebob Squarepants while we're trying to talk.
So, what is the future for this game? I guess stream, whatever you're doing, man. Curious.
Well, Rehydrated's coming out. My goal with that is to help grow the community with it. I'm going to try to pull as many people as possible into the original game, along with growing Rehydrated as well, just to keep the mutual benefit of both games, growing at the same time, the community supporting one another. I really hope that people can learn to accept and like both games, even if it's not their preference. They can still be chill about it, and support whichever game people want to run. Just keep the community wholesome and supporting one another, because this is a game back in the past, way long back. People remember this is a very popular game to kind of make fun of and scoff at because it's SpongeBob and all. But we're in a position now where it's we all have each other. We have friends who run the game. It's a big enough community to support one another, and we got to remember that. We don't want to be the people that we hated at once,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Use the new game and the old game to grow each other.
Mhm.
Exactly. Best way to do it.
Everyone's got their preference.
For anyone that I guess wants to become part of this community, wants to learn the game, what steps should they take?
Well, they got tutorials in the Discord server for Battle for Bikini Bottom on my Twitch channel, on the leaderboards, speedrun.com/bfbb. There's a little Discord button. You can go in there to interact with the community and get your hands on those tutorials. But if you want to just take the short and easy version, go to my YouTube channel, youtube.com/ShiftSS. Go to my playlists. There's a playlist for Battle for Bikini Bottom speedrun tutorials. If you want to try to learn tricks on your own and have fun with it, I recommend that. But if you're really serious about getting into the speedrun, regardless of what console you have to start off on, highly recommend that Discord server, because people in this community are very friendly. They'll go out of their way to help you. They'll take a lot of time out of your day to really answer your questions, and that's the value that we've always promoted in this community, is just trying to promote an environment where people can have an easier time learning this game. It's pretty tough to learn without resources and help. What we're trying to do is lower that skill floor to make the game more accessible by compensating for, because there are no patches, we can't change the game. We're just trying to make it easier by helping people more. Sometimes that's what you got to do.
I really like the accessibility that you have to the beginner tutorials. People really overlook the beginner tutorials. Those are the most important tutorials.
Yeah.
For sure. Because when somebody watches what you were doing out there, it's so daunting. I can't do that. But
All those tricks are so
work
hard,
you work
yeah,
for 3 years to get to that
Yeah.
point. You got everyone starts at a certain spot, and you really shouldn't compare yourself to anybody when it comes into speedrunning
Yeah,
the game.
and another thing too is the opposite end, where it's it looks easier than it is because somebody's doing it for you, And some people say I'm not gonna go to the beginner tutorial. I'm gonna jump to the intermediate tutorial, and then they just try rollback and they're like, "What the hell? This game sucks. I can't do
Yeah,
this."
exactly.
You gotta build yourself up. All of us, you gotta remember, this is a game that I played back in the day when there were 17 people on the leaderboard, and now there are 530 something. So back then the game was less optimized, less understood. There weren't as many tricks, and the easy stuff is stuff that we just did in world record attempts. We all had to go through it. It's just we're trying to help you guys get that experience faster and more efficiently.
And now we're in a
you
time.
can't cut corners, yeah.
We're in a time now where you have all your tutorials on YouTube. You have a stream where people can go and talk to you and ask questions. So now we're in a position where anyone that is trying to get at the game has all the resources to do so.
Every
And,
category, every difficulty.
you did so
all
many tricks
tutorials.
throughout this run. I was amazed by it. This is the first time I actually sat down and watched the run start to finish, and I was blown away by the accuracy and all of the tricks that you did. So I want to say good job, SHiFT. It was a pleasure. Super fun to watch that, and I think anyone that wants to tune into your stream or your YouTube should definitely do so. Twitch.tv/SHiFT. You already know.
Thanks, man. And remember, there are other runners in this community too. If you go to the Battle for Bikini Bottom directory, there are people almost always streaming this game, and they're just as friendly and willing to help as if you want to learn. Don't be shy. People are usually afraid of asking questions, but this community is very accepting of questions, because we understand like a lot of this stuff is very hard to comprehend. It's crazy. Yeah.
And hey, man, a game that came out in 2003, it's pretty lively right now. You know, there's no better time to pick it up.
Oh, more livelier
You
than
know?
ever.
Yeah,
more
for
lively
sure.
than ever.
Especially
So-
with the remake getting announced. That was a big boost.
That's so cool, dude. That's so
a big
cool.
boost.
Let's go.
I still can't believe it.
Yeah. No. Yeah. We really never
Yeah.
thought that was ever gonna
I
be a
was-
thing.
I
Really
thought
never
it was
thought.
never
And
so.
you know, SHiFT did actually play test it, and you know, he's supposed to not say anything. And I asked him, I was like, "Yo,"
he's okay now.
I was like, "Can you tell us something about it?" He's like, "No, I can't." I'm like, "Dude,
there
come
are
on,
some
you
things
can't-
I can't talk
He
about,
says
but
on
honestly,
NDA.
Come on, dude."
I don't
He's
think
under contract.
I don't think that they're like the things that I'm not allowed to talk about aren't really that interesting. I don't think, especially for speedrunners. But the stuff that I can talk about, like I've pretty much already talked about it on my YouTube channel, so you can check that out. It's pretty recent. If you like watch Battle for Bikini Bottom content on YouTube, you probably got it recommended to you. It's my most recent upload. It has all an hour and 40 minutes of me doing Q&A with people talking about the game and like asking me questions, how it feels to play, and also if you didn't know, some developers and some of the publishers of the game were watching that stream while we were answering questions, so they saw that feedback and they're aware of all the stuff you raised. So thank you again to those of you who watched that stream and ask questions to ask questions for me to answer, and saw how the developers could they can get that feedback. And that's the thing, is like it's a big feedback loop with this game. It's unlike some more recent games where the developers don't really listen to the communities behind the games and the core members that really brought the
care
game
and
to
are
where
shaping
it
the
is.
community
Yeah.
and everything like
Yeah,
that. And that's
so
always really cool to
it's
see
really-
the developers do that.
They didn't have to do this.
They didn't have to, but
No,
they're really
not
trying
at
to make
all.
it a community effort. They're
they
trying to
really
include
care.
the community and make it a game that everyone can be happy
They
with.
realize that even though it's a game based on a cartoon character that we watched when we were kids, like there are a lot of people in their 20s who are really passionate about it too. And
Yes.
they recognize that. It's
Yep.
cool. Yeah.
That's awesome, man.
Cool.
Well,
Any
wrap
clo-
this
any-
up.
It looks like
any
he's
closing
trying-
words?
Looks like he's trying to get his way on here. So
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
We got another
Guys,
we got
so
another big boy coming
Torch
up.
Definitely. Stay
is-
tuned.
Coming in hot with Ocarina of Time, any percent. They'll be coming in very soon after a short setup, and we'll catch you guys soon.
Take
Peace.
care, guys.
All right, later.
Thank you very much.